2 weeks ago, a mob of Donald Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. It was a near-death experience for American democracy, and the entire world watched in horror. Today, in the same space, American democracy's resilience. Joe Biden became the new U.S. president, Kamala Harris the new vice president. There was no mention of Trump. Instead, a promise to end 4 years of America's split-screen reality show. No more lies against the truth. No more Americans against Americans. I'm Brent, Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
The 46th President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
This is America's day. This is democracy's day. I will be a president for all Americans, all Americans. Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire. We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, America.
Also coming up, the history being written by and embodied in Kamala Harris. Today, she became the first person of color and the first woman to become Vice President of the United States.
With the new administration of Biden, Harris, we hope things will be back to normal. I'm sure, things will get back to normal, and that is what will make America great again.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden, Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden, Jr., do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
Office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And with that oath, Joe Biden became the 46th President of the United States today. To our viewers on PBS in the United States and to our viewers all around the world, welcome. We begin the day with a new U.S. President, a new U.S. Vice President, and a declaration to end America's uncivil war. Today, Joe Biden became the 46th U.S. President. Kamala Harris became his Vice President. The significance of this day for democracy around the world cannot be overstated. The challenges facing this new administration, the homemade crises, well, they are just as great. Tonight, we take a pause from the politics and focus on the people who today began a new chapter in U.S. history. The faces and personalities on parade today called our attention. We were transfixed by the mixture of power, fame, talent, and even the surreal and the absurd. Now, there were former U.S. presidents in attendance today, the Clintons, the Bush family, and the Obamas. There was an amazing performance of the national anthem by Lady Gaga. And, the irony of it all. Sitting among the new president and vice president were members of Congress such as Ted Cruz, who 2 weeks ago claimed Biden's election may not be legitimate. And there was also Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, who for the past 4 years, up until that storming of the U.S. Capitol, had been Donald Trump's strongest congressional supporter. All of this speaks to the diversity of America, but also to the division within the nation. The United States is arguably almost as divided as it was when the Civil War began in 1860. President Biden made it a point to address this division and his commitment to unity today.
This is America's day. This is democracy's day. A day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve. Through a crucible for the ages, America has been tested anew. and America has risen to the challenge.
All right, there's a lot to talk about from this historic day. To do that, I'm happy to welcome back to the day Yascha Mounk. Yascha is an associate professor at Johns Hopkins University. He's also a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. He's written extensively about the former administration, as well as the new president and the new vice president. Yascha, it's good to see you again. I have heard many people describing today with a big sigh of relief, almost as if they were being liberated from the recent past. How would you describe today and its significance for the world?
Well, when you said the word former administration, and I thought in my mind former President Donald J. Trump, that brought a big smile to my lips. I have argued from the very beginning that Donald Trump, as well as other authoritarian populists, are a real danger to democracy around the world. Donald Trump was a danger to America's democracy. I think he has ensured over the last 2 or 3 months that he will enter the history books as that. Before that, it might have been a little bit difficult for teachers 30 or 50 or 100 years from now to explain to school children how and why exactly the president was such a danger to our constitutional system. I think his unwillingness to accept Joe Biden's victory as legitimate, his incitement of protests, his absence today proves that point more eloquently than any books by political scientists like me might have done. And we know from around the world that most authoritarian populists win re-election. That it's very hard to displace them through free and fair elections. And so Joe Biden's victory against Donald Trump was a great, important victory in the long, drawn-out war against authoritarian demagogues. It is a day that I was not sure would ever come. And so the fact that we have had this transition of power today, and that we have a president that, whether you like him or not, whatever anybody's particular views about him might be, is clearly a decent man and a man who's deeply committed to America's constitutional tradition, is a very, very meaningful.
Yeah, I've heard that word a lot, decency and a decent man. These divisions within America, they've certainly kept you, they've kept us busy for the past 4 years. The pursuit of unity will keep this new administration busy as well. I want you to take a listen to part of what Joe Biden said today.
With unity, we can do great things, important things. We can right wrongs. We can put people to work in good jobs. We can teach our children in safe schools. We can overcome the deadly virus. We can reward work and rebuild the middle class and make health care secure for all. We can deliver racial justice, and we can make America once again the leading force for good in the world.
So, Yascha, you know, the top theme of today was unity, a nation in need of unity. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. It was very clear over the last 4 years that the then president of the United States thought that it was to his political advantage. And it was in his element to polarize as much as possible, to drive headlines as much as possible, to make his supporters love him as much as they might, but also to make everybody else hate him as much as they could. Joe Biden clearly has a very different attitude about the world. It's what made him the nominee of the Democratic Party when some other candidates thought that they had to match Donald Trump, sort of anger for anger, outrage for outrage, that they had to take the fight to him, which is an understandable stance to take. But Joe Biden from the beginning said, no, I believe in unity. I believe that even people who voted for Donald Trump, even his supporters, deserve better than they're getting from him. And this country can come together again. I think it is absolutely right for him to emphasize that in this very important inaugural speech. He said explicitly that he intends to be the president of all Americans, that he will take particular care to fight for those who didn't vote for him. That message won't arrive in the inbox of every American. Not every person who watched this inaugural speech will believe him that he means that. But a lot of the persuadable people will. A lot of people who might never vote for Joe Biden, who might be unhappy to see Donald Trump leave, will nevertheless know that this is a president who promises to actually care for them, who doesn't look down on them, who doesn't sit in judgment of them. And hopefully that can help. It won't on its own do that, but it can help to lower the political temperature in this country a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like for us to talk in a moment about what lays before this new president. But first, I want us to take a look at the 50-year path that led Joe Biden to the White House today as U.S. president.
It began half a century ago. At 29, Joseph Biden was one of the youngest candidates ever elected to the Senate. His success laced with sadness when just weeks later his wife and daughter died in a car accident. Biden remarried and launched his first presidential bid in 1987 and again 20 years later.
My grandmother would yell out, "Spread the faith."
Barack Obama chose him to be his running mate.
The best vice president America's ever had, Mr. Joe Biden.
Biden looked resigned to never quite reaching the nation's highest office until Donald Trump came along.
That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
With his decades of experience, Biden said he was the man to restore America's standing in the world, that he was the man for the moment.
I'll be a president who will stand with our allies and friends and make it clear to our adversaries the days of cozying up to dictators is over.
He promised to show leadership in the midst of a coronavirus pandemic.
It's estimated that nearly another 210,000 Americans could lose their lives by the end of the year. Enough. No more. Let's just set partisanship aside. Let's end the politics and follow the science.
Ultimately, the voters agreed, electing Biden the nation's 46th president. But the election was divisive, and his opponent Donald Trump refused to concede, instead pushing conspiracy theories about his loss. Biden refused to engage with Trump's attacks, seeking to stay above the fray. That became difficult when a mob inspired by Trump stormed the Capitol building.
Like so many other Americans, I am genuinely shocked and saddened that our nation, so long the beacon of light and hope for democracy, has come to such a dark moment.
But America survived that day, and Biden now has 4 years to offer the leadership and healing he has promised.
So, Yasha, what do you say? Is Joe Biden, is he the right man at the right time for America?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the strange things about him. Let's go back for a moment to the time of the Democratic presidential primaries, in which virtually every journalist in this country and a lot of operatives in the Democratic Party had a very clear vision of what the party was and where it was headed. They thought that this was a moment in which the base of the Democratic Party wanted somebody on the far left, wanted a fighter, wanted somebody, as I was saying earlier, who matches Donald Trump's anger. And Joe Biden, when he held his opening speech of a campaign in Philadelphia, talking about America's constitutional tradition, talking about the need for reconciliation, talking about the need for the country to recapture its decency, thought, who is this old fuddy-duddy who doesn't get this political moment, who talks as though it was 20 years ago? This is completely the wrong thing for this time. Nobody's going to vote for him. And he was consistently underestimated, consistently written off throughout the campaign. Well, it turns out that perhaps precisely because Donald Trump is a little bit less online than a lot of other politicians, precisely because he's not spending his days scrolling through Twitter or watching cable news in the way that Donald Trump does, he actually has captured the heart and the soul of his nation much better. America is a country with people who have a broad range of political views. Some of them are very sympathetic to Joe Biden, others less so. But the great majority of Americans does not want to be as divided, does not want to be in the middle of fights with friends and family about politics, does not want to wake up every morning having to worry about politics, having to think, what on earth is the president going to do today? One of the promises that Joe Biden has given to the nation is that he will fight for people, he will try to improve their lives, he will do what he can to end this terrible pandemic. but he's not going to polarize, and he will allow them to go back, look after their children, go to work, get through this pandemic without having to think about the president every single day of the year. And I think coming after Donald Trump, that makes him precisely the right person for this moment.
And I think a lot of people are going to be reassured to hear that the heart and soul of a country cannot be found inside a tweet. I'd like for us, if we could, for a moment to focus now on Biden's vice president, Kamala Harris. She made history today. Take a listen.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
That I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
The duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So, Yasha, if Joe Biden, if he is the link to the past and the anchor for the present, is Kamala Harris, is she the beacon to America's future?
Yes, I mean, I think they both are in a certain way, and I think there's a slight danger in talking about things as though the future is only one part of America. But certainly Kamala Harris represents America in all of its breadth and diversity. Hers is obviously a historic vice presidency because she's the first female vice president of the United States, the first black vice president of the United States, for of course we've had a black president, but also because, like Barack Obama, she has a very interesting history of migration and of somebody who has an inheritance from many different parts of the world. One of the most positive developments, I think, in the United States over the last decades is that its quite stark racial classifications and categorizations, which helped to define the country for many centuries, are increasingly not up to the job of describing what the United States is actually like. That was true of Barack Obama, whose mother, of course, was white and whose father had been born and raised in Kenya. And it is true of Kamala Harris, whose mother is Indian and whose father hails from Jamaica. I think that is a very nice image of what the United States is today, both in contradistinction to the idea of an America that's defined by whiteness, or the idea that in America only those who are white are sort of truly members of the community, as many people would have thought a number of decades ago, but also in contradistinction to too simplistic a view of what the racial categories in the United States are. Her patchwork family is one that represents virtually every inheritance, virtually every strand of America, and that I think is a very meaningful thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Kamala Harris's story it's truly one of America's immigrant identity and also of the American dream of being able to become whatever you wish if you work hard. Here's more about that. Take a look.
Kamala Harris grew up here, a quiet neighborhood across the bay from San Francisco. Her mother raised her to be strong and to prove herself through her work. She studied at the historically black Howard University in Washington, D.C., then got her law degree in San Francisco. Her career ascent began in California. In 2003, she was elected as San Francisco's first female district attorney. In 2011, she became California's Attorney General, where she oversaw the state's legalization of gay marriage. In 2017, Harris was elected to the U.S. Senate. She quickly gained a reputation as a tough questioner. grilling Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Donald Trump Supreme Court pick Brett Kavanaugh.
I'm not remembering, but if you have something you want to, I'm just trying to think, do I know anyone who works at that firm? I might know.
Have you had, that's not my question. My question is, have you had a conversation with anyone at that firm about that investigation? It's a really specific question.
In January 2019, she announced her run for the White House.
I stand before you today to announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
Harris dropped out, but then became Joe Biden's running mate. She proved to be an avid campaigner and debater. Harris's father is from Jamaica, and her mother was born in India. That makes her the first black and the first Asian American vice president. Hopes are high.
With the new administration of Biden, Harris, we hope things will be back to normal. I'm sure things will get back to normal, and that is what will make America great again.
It's been a long way to the vice presidency, but America has spoken, and Harris is now headed for her place in history.
All right, Yasha, we've got about 30 seconds. Let me ask you, have we seen the last of Donald Trump?
No, he will do what he can to stay relevant. He certainly will have an outside presence in the American imagination for the next years. The impeachment trial ensures that he will dominate headlines for some of the next months. But I don't think it is at all guaranteed that he will manage to win the Republican nomination in 2024 if he tries to win it. He may end up fading more than seems imaginable at the moment, but that is far from a foregone conclusion.
Okay. Yasha Monk there, an associate professor at Johns Hopkins University, member of the Council on Foreign Relations. As always, Yasha, good to talk with you. We appreciate your insights tonight. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, before the inauguration of Joe Biden began at the U.S. Capitol today, there was a final departure from the White House. Donald Trump and his wife Melania left the White House for the last time, headed for Florida. Trump, in another break with tradition, did not attend the inauguration of his successor. The image today incredibly stark and sobering. Trump began today as the most powerful man on the planet. He ended the day out of work, sitting by a swimming pool. What kind of legacy does he deserve? Will Donald Trump go down in history as one of America's worst leaders?
Thank you very much. And we love you, and I can tell you that from the bottom of my heart. This has been an incredible 4 years. It is my greatest honor and privilege to have been your president. I will always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that the future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success. I think they'll have great success. They have the foundation to do something really spectacular. The things that we've done have been just incredible, and I couldn't have done it without you. So just a goodbye. We love you. We will be back in some form. So have a good life. We will see you soon. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The final words there of Donald Trump in his final moments as U.S. president. Well, the day is almost done. The conversation, it continues online. You'll find us on Twitter, either at DW News. You can follow me at Brent Goff TV. We want to leave you now with some of the images of this very historic day. And remember, whatever happens between now and then, tomorrow is another day. We'll see you then, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Dr. Jill Biden.
Broad stripes and bright stars through the pale.
We are a people of many races, creeds, and colors, national backgrounds, cultures, and styles.
We watched were
Help us under our new president to reconcile the people of our land
and the rocket's red glare.
So help me God.
All right. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still
So help you God. So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
This is America's day. This is democracy's day.